A little about the prophecy that Pastor wrote about in the Mark of the Beast. 17 years before this prophecy came to pass, and that was the peace treaty. Now, if you look here in the calendar that Yahweh inspired, it says the peace treaty signed September 13th, 1993, put into effect October 13th, 1993. Now, this gives you a little summary about the peace treaty and what it's all about. Now, notice this is on July of 2017, and remember that on the page that talks about the peace treaty, it's written it talks about July as well. Okay, now, so I entered that into the gematria. The peace treaty signed on September 13th, 1993, put into effect October 13th, 1993, and it comes out to 1624 and 7009. Okay, now let's look at 1624. 1624 in the Hebrew, it means to stir up, engage in strife, to provoke. You also see here contend, to engage in conflict. Now, Pastor talked about this in the 9th book of Israel, how this peace treaty, it starts conflict, okay? It's not for peace, it's for conflict. Okay, you also see provoke, you see stars, and then you have war. Now, how does the peace treaty tie into war? Well, let's turn to Daniyl. Let's go to Daniyl. Daniyl 9, and let's look at verse 27. It says, and he will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. Now notice that the word many, it actually has Rabin's name there. It says for 1 week, 7 years, and in the midst of the week, he will cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. It says instead, he will cause the prevalence of the Lord of heaven, even until the destruction that is determined will be poured upon the desolator. Now notice the destruction there. This is the war that will take place that will last 1 hour. Okay, notice the destruction. Okay, also in that same number, you have to anger, you have meddle, stir up, and strive. Okay, now the other number, as you saw, was 7009. Okay, now when you look up 7009 in the Hebrew, it means adversary, adversaries. You also have an opponent as rising against one, enemies, and then it has that Hebrew word there. But notice the peace treaty, it's enemies that are supposed to be coming together, but we know that it's not for peace. Okay, now notice that word there, that Hebrew word. It goes to this number here, which means to arise, to stand up, to stand. You also have assailants. You have confirms. You have fulfillment, to go ahead and confirm. You have stands, start, and take his stand. Now, let's look back to Daniyl 9, verse 27. And you see, and he will confirm a covenant. Well, notice this number is talking about what is written in Daniyl. Okay, so these numbers are showing the prophecies, and they're backing Yahweh up 100%. You also have in the number, after being smitten or wounded, to arise, to come on scene, to appear. You also have to arise for, to become, with, of thing. You have to arise for action, especially of arising, to arise out of inaction, introducing some specific deed, especially arise to start, to make a move, to go somewhere, to stand, to be established and confirmed. Now notice that to arise out of inaction. You also have to be fulfilled of human plans. You have confirm, to ratify, confirm, establish, and to impose an obligation. Also in the number, you have to establish, to make, ratify a covenant of, make binding, a vow, to carry out, to give effect to, an oath, covenant, to plan, command of man. Okay, you have standing place, you have of land, then you have land or region. Now remember this, the peace plan was dividing the land. Okay, now this was all brought out. Remember the 9th book of Israel, chapter 23, Pastor went into great detail how they're dividing the land for money. Okay, now this is what this number is showing here. You see the land and region. Okay, remember they're dividing the land. Alright, you also have in general a place, locality, spot. It says region or quarter. It says to come on scene and arise out of inaction. Now remember, this peace treaty was stopped, and it was stopped by Benjamin NetanYaHu. Okay, he stopped it because he said it would be detrimental to Israel. Okay, now also you have to confirm and to establish. Okay, now remember, Pastor or Yahweh inspired Pastor to write about this 17 years ago. Okay, 17 years ago, before the prophecy ever came to pass. Okay, now, if you remember, this here, the peace treaty, okay, it's talked about on the same month as July. Well, what do we have here? Well, this article came out. It says Palestinian sources to I-24 News, U.S. envoy proposes NetanYaHu and Abbas to meet in July. Okay, praise Yahweh. So you see, alright, now that's what they're saying, but if they're going to do it, you don't know yet. It says Palestinian sources told I-24 News that it says they proposed a race-to-race meeting between NetanYaHu and Abbas, which would take place in July in order to receive the stalled peace talks. Okay, now notice that, in July. Well, you can see how Yahweh inspired this calendar to be written. Praise Yahweh. I think you should give Yahweh a hand for that one. Okay, now also in this article, notice the stalled peace talks. Well, remember, they were stalled by Benjamin NetanYaHu, and this is what the number showed. Let's go back to that number. Remember, it would arise out of inaction. Well, that word stall also means inaction. So this number is showing that these prophecies are going to come to pass. Alright, that's all the information I have for you today. If y'all please stand. I'd like to turn over to the next speaker, Deacon David Hawkins.
Shalom, everyone.